Steve Cooper, Rank Success, and this is a short video in relation to the amount of work that you're going to do to prepare effectively for a promotion board, and you're going to be using your memory when you do that. And a lot of people, a lot of criticism is kicked in when they say, oh, promotion boards are about remembering things and your ability to remember things. And if you can't remember things, then it's not about that. It's not about you doing the job. It's about the fact you can't remember, and various other criticisms. But there is a serious point in there around being able to prepare and to study and to get your ducks in a row, if you like, so to speak, for a promotion board. And part of that is understanding a little bit, researching a little bit about how your memory works. So what I try and do is ensure that when people go for promotion, they're not working at 6s and 7s, they're not working in a confused way, and that they actually do understand how memory works, so that they're not working at, let's say, to rehearse and practice things that they haven't actually understood or taken some time to interpret and think through first, and to rearrange and organise it in a way that's clear before they then start putting it into a solid or concrete form in their head or verbally in terms of practicing. Now, some people will say, and sometimes forces say, we're trying to move to a position where you don't have to memorise things. And I've alluded to this in other videos. I think there's a video I've done called When Forces Give Bad Advice, and I allude in there, they don't mean to give bad advice, it's just my interpretation that it's bad advice. You need to think through and to try and remember a lot of things for a promotion board, and this is why some people prevail in promotion processes and others don't. You cannot suddenly do a mad dash in 2 or 3 weeks when the promotion process is announced and try and get your ducks in a row. Your brain doesn't work like that. You're unlikely probably to be able to clear your diary, your decks, or your duties in that time. And that's why it's really important to do some effective work beforehand. And this video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the process of memory, how it works. There's lots of books you can read on this, and there's one called The Owner's Manual for the Brain by P.S.J. Howard, which is where some of this comes from. But generally it works really, really well for promotion candidates. So it's just understanding a few things. And there's a quote in that book that says, we remember what we understand only what we pay attention to, and we pay attention to what we want. And that's quite a powerful quote, because one of the first stages, there are 3 stages to your memory and how you think, and how I ask people to think about how they prepare for boards. And the first one is intending. So you wouldn't be watching this video, you wouldn't download any of my guides or watch my promotion masterclass or even waste a part of your life if you didn't intend to remember some of the stuff I'm talking about, or at least to kind of be alive to the fact you might need to remember it. So intending to remember it. And that's about intending to remember something, and don't assume it's just going to click. A lot of this stuff is dry. You probably wouldn't choose to read it. So competency and values framework and some of the literature, you've got to actually intend to remember it. After exposure, you need to make a point of wanting to remember it, because your brain filters out 80% of noise and other stuff. So you have to actually really want to remember things. Organise the material. You'll need to organise it in some order. When I say about getting your ducks in a row, do some homework before an experience like a board where you've got to use your memory and prepare mind maps, prepare flashcards, outlines, and just sketch it out roughly. What's the role about, what are the challenges facing the force, what are some of the challenges facing policing at the moment, how am I going to manage resources going forward, what does the role mean to me, and how am I going to effectively lead my teams through the challenges of the immediate and medium term future. So once you've decided to memorise information, once you've decided to do it, one way to show your intention is to chunk that information and to learn those chunks and to divide and conquer it. So you've got to intend to remember the stuff, otherwise it's a waste of time. One of my favourite actors is Al Pacino, and I remember a story I read about him where he had a short period of time off through a busy filming season, and he wanted to play King Lear, and that's about standing on stage for 2 hours, and he managed to do it. But he wanted to do it. He intended to remember it, and to remember 2 hours of lines. You've got to really want to do that. So you haven't got to remember 2 hours of lines. You've just got to remember some concepts and understand this is how you start to remember things, by intending to remember them. So the second phase of that is file, putting things in file and order. So you're going to have a folder, a notepad, you're going to have a mind map, a clock face, sticky notes, scribbles. It doesn't really matter what you've got, flashcards. You're going to have to put stuff into file and order. You're going to have to start laying out some of the information you're going to be working with and thinking with and talking with into a way that helps you remember it when you need to, when you move to the next phase, which is about practicing and rehearsing. So when I talk about file and order, I know candidates that have literally wallpapered their living room wall with flip chart paper from left to right around their living room, much to their partner's annoyance. But when they've sat down in a promotion board, they've fed back to me, Steve, those notes, my preparation, may as well have just been burned into my mind, because behind the panel, while I was sat there in front of them, were all my notes around the room in my mind's eye. So whether you use a clock face or mind maps or flashcards, you've got to have a way of getting yourself match fit by trying to kind of put stuff into file and order. Some of that may include some of the kind of handouts that I use on masterclasses, or my free guides, or concepts or issues or themes that I cover in my promotion masterclass video. But you have to make notes that are meaningful to you in a way that help you. Get them laid out into a solid kind of way, and then mentally snapshot that photograph. You're ready to move to the next phase. You've got all your prep laid out, and you're ready to move to the next phase, which is rehearse. And when we talk about rehearsing, people go, well, that's not real, is it? If you've got to rehearse to go in front of a promotion board, what's that all about? And I just say, well, that is, that's a view. That's a view. I'll have no time with that at all. Good candidates know the detail. Good candidates are confident. Good candidates have done the work. They've committed themselves. They've made a commitment to themselves to prepare effectively, and to commit to the level and depth and breadth of work required to turn up in front of a promotion board on the day and to do the very best they can, and to present the very best version of themselves that they can on that day. And that is based on the foundation of work that you've done. And with that, you have to remember things. So you have to be able to remember things and literally pull them from your mind. So if you've intended to remember it, there's the first step. You've decided to do that. You've spent a bit of time putting it in file and order. Brilliant. You're then ready to move to rehearse phase. Now, what I often come across is people who are practicing and rehearsing before they've actually put it in file and order. So when I'm talking about the 3 stages, it's important that you get that right. When you're ready to move to practicing and rehearsing out loud with a partner, a friend, a loved one, someone who's prepared to sit down, ask you some questions that you can practice and rehearse. Funnily enough, you start picking up insights into yourself, into how you sound, how confident you are, what you would say differently next time. And a bit like a wedding speech, father of the bride or best man speech, you're never going to read out the first draft or practice, or deliver it for the first time as a draft. You're going to deliver it, you're going to be remembering, you're going to have practiced, and you're going to have rehearsed. A promotion board is exactly the same. You're going to come in, they won't know you've practiced and rehearsed, they'll have expected you to, but you come in, you sit down, and they ask you questions, and they don't speak for very long, the panel. They ask you a question. It takes them very, very short period of time. The rest of the 7-8 minutes is yours to fill. How are you going to do that if you haven't practiced and rehearsed? Are you literally just going to be saying things that come into your head? Because I would respectfully suggest you're probably not going to be getting across your best performance in that scenario. So practicing and rehearsing, rehearse it. Practice it as a way of showing to yourself you intend to remember this stuff. Do it and say it repeatedly. Repetition is a way children learn. It's a great, proven, tried and tested learning method. look at my testimonials. Lots and lots of people have referred to and allude to the fact they practiced and rehearsed once they've got their materials in place. Create the material, record it if you want to, go jogging with it, create it as a recording, record your voice, record your draft responses, and make your own podcast. Listen to a podcast. I've got a podcast that I talk about these issues, and make a set of flashcards. Just get your practice and repetition in place, and then you can come back and understand, look back at memory and go, right, I intend to remember this stuff, not a problem at all. I've got it in some file and order. I've done some real quality work over a couple of weeks or months at least. I now understand it. I've got a good appraisal of where the force is, where policing is, and where we're moving to in the future. I understand how I'm going to lead my teams, my own leadership style. I understand some of the challenges and issues that may present, how I'm going to deal with them. And I'm confident in talking about them. And if you do this work, you will arrive in front of a promotion panel confident and ready for what it should be, which is a professional conversation. But you will have to do some work on your memory to try and remember some of this stuff. Okay, that was just a very short video to talk about the importance of your memory, a little bit about the structure and how it works. And if you want to see more about that, then you feel free to download any of my products. There's a free there is a code, a discount code, RS Guides 20, which you'll see in my blogs and my videos, and that will get you 20% off any of my guides or bundles. And I look forward to doing another video for you shortly. Thank you.